New analysis by the Financial Times and More in Common reveals that Reform's strongest projected constituencies are now largely made up of lower-income communities, many in Labour heartlands. Once seen as the domain of disaffected Conservatives, Reform's appeal is now much broader. As CapEx's Joseph Dinage wrote last week, there are plenty of reasons to doubt Reform's ability to actually deliver. But it does raise a key question. Is Britain's populist movement no longer about Brexit, but about broken promises? And perhaps, is a Reform, can it really be considered right-wing anymore? Is it perhaps more of a left-wing party? Alys, what do you think?
I absolutely don't think Reform are particularly a right-wing party anymore. I think their economic agenda is very left-wing. They're talking about renationalising industries, talking about huge welfare spending. So Farage, who used to think that he was sort of carrying the candle of Thatcherism, seems to have gone completely the other way. I thought Joe's piece was very convincing, but I think there's a kind of theory that now Reform are in charge of councils and they're going to have to actually deliver on things like potholes and stuff, that they will be exposed. But I actually think that it sounds credible. It's not actually that convincing. Whereas I think when it comes to general elections, people don't really think about their councillors, if they even know who they are. They think about who they want to be Prime Minister. And provided that there is enough people in the country who think they want Nigel Farage to be Prime Minister, which the polling suggests they do, then they have a very real chance of taking power. It will then be, when they're in actual government in Westminster, that they will be properly challenged. And we've seen, for example, in the Netherlands, where Geert Wilders has had to collapse the government, that actually populists don't fare very well when they're given real power. But for those like me who don't want to see a Reform government, their progress at the moment is very worrying.
Do you think, Alys, as we get closer to an election, Reform, even if it doesn't have much of a record in office that it can point to or that people are going to pay much attention to, it's going to have some policies. And the challenge is, the more policies it has, the more left-wing it looks to get that new sort of Labour heartland vote. And at the same time, it therefore risks losing the sort of disaffected Conservatives who are worried about immigration, but perhaps would much rather see, lower taxes and more Thatcherite policies. Can they manage that, or are those contradictions going to tear apart their vote at a level that would help them really get a serious number of seats?
I think there's a strong chance that their own internal contradictions tear them apart. I think that's exactly what we saw with the Jeremy Corbyn's project, right? So he sort of a manifesto with plenty of policies that might have been individually popular, like free broadband and pensions for the WASPy women. But voters could see that it just didn't add up. And also that ultimately this was not a credible party of leadership. And I think when you look at Reform, you look at the kind of internal personality politics, the kind of chaos at the heart of Reform, even when it's such a tiny party